So, once again, here we are, dinner with friends.
That real compliment, get that real compliment. Man, that whole year I been playing. Told these niggas on it. Man, that real compliment. I been working all winter, making sure that my family eat dinner, making sure they know when I enter. Man, that real compliment. Eat Point May, Riverdale Raymond. I was born back in the 80s.
Food is delicious.
Amazing.
But we're gonna talk a little bit. And I got some progressive minds at the table. Everybody has different views, you know, all intelligent people. But I want
public conservatives too.
with the new age of government security. We're talking about it tapping in phones, your emails. It's basically privacy, and it is a quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was any man that's willing to
Trade freedom for safety
deserves neither.
I think Americans should have an Edward Snowden day. You know?
Okay.
Your government is looking at you. You know your government is looking at you, and the only thing that is protecting you right now is the fragile piece of paper called the Constitution that promises you your Fifth Amendment and some other rights in terms of ability for press and to have free speech. It's a very fragile thing because I say all these new laws and Patriot Acts are kind of rolling that back, and we're allowing that in the name of safety.
Right.
And you know, it's downright silly because this is one of the only republics in the nation. I mean, in the world, it's one of the only republics in the world that it's still, the illusion is there that it is people-driven and people-minded.
Right.
And if we allow our Constitution to get written off essentially by allowing lawmakers to keep invading our privacy, then we've given up the greatest experiment, I think, in terms of a self-ran government by the proletariat the world's ever seen. And I don't want to see it anymore.
I mean, you know, I was talking to someone yesterday and I was asking them, well, what if, and then he said, well, the if is probably gone, but I said, well, what if Facebook worked with the government, right? I said, because nowadays, all those organizations like How You Find It and Find It, whatever those people were called, I said, they must be out of business now.
Right.
Because if you want to find somebody, you usually just go to Facebook, right, and just put their name in and find them.
Right.
So I said, what if Facebook worked with the government? He looked at me and said, what if? They probably been working with the government. So the question to me is, I would never think that they wasn't tapping phones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I don't think that's
no, I think they
that's,
was.
that's not a question. I mean, we know they are at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think there's some personal, you know, things that we need to do to protect ourselves, and that kind of comes with the hacker constitution.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a way to control us.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, speaking of, kind of piggybacking off what you're saying, like, I'm going to go to Walmart and get me one of those little burner phones. Like, I don't need a smartphone for everything, right?
Right.
Because I feel like everybody's already, like, you know, so privy to what we're doing. Even now, when I'm at home on my laptop, I cover up my camera.
Right.
Like, I have a desktop. I don't allow those cameras to be open because
Right.
I feel like
They can tap in.
they're watching everywhere.
I think what's interesting about this issue is it's not like a conservative or liberal issue. You have different sides on different sides of this issue. So you have conservatives who are like, yeah, let's be really hawkish about it. You have liberals, the president, in fact, who's like, no, we need the opportunity to be able to look at what certain people are doing.
Right.
I think we've got to strike a balance. I mean, that's my opinion. I used to be a federal prosecutor.
Right.
So I think that there's got to be some sort of balance struck. I don't think there should be any blanket authority for you to be able to erode people's constitutional rights. But I do think that there are times where, in the name of safety, someone's safety, now...
Name one of those times.
I gotta know.
So just measured against you were a federal prosecutor, measure, and this isn't a challenge to you personally, it's just saying you're sworn to uphold the Constitution as a member of federal government.
Right.
What is worth breaking the sacred oath of that Constitution in terms of this republic versus many other republics that have came and failed that's worth it in the name of safety?
Well, let me be clear.
Okay,
So
because that's what our president is.
No,
and
that's
that's
not-
not attack on him, just
Yeah.
saying the Patriot Act directly contrasts with parts of our Constitution.
Right. No, that's not my suggestion. My
Okay.
suggestion is
Gotcha.
there's got to be, I mean, you've got to go through the process. When I was a federal prosecutor, if I wanted a warrant for to search somebody's car, I had to prove that I had probable cause. I had to go in front of a judge. I had to do all of those
Absolutely.
things. And I think that you ought to have to go through those steps still in order to be able to do it. I don't think there ought to be any blanket authority issued to any governing body that says you can search people's phones without having to go through that process.
This isn't a phone, but right now we
Yeah.
have in states, it's not federal, but a cop can stop us, find $7,000 figuratively
yeah.
and take it, and we have to prove to get our money back.
Yeah.
That's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
I know that to be true.
I'm just saying it's a
Firsthand.
slippery slope. We seem to. That's the only thing that scares me.
And in a lot of cases, Mike, the Supreme Court has eroded those rights. So we went from
Yup.
you've got to have probable cause to you've got to have
Yup.
clear and articulable suspicion to you've got to have reasonable
Yup.
cause to stop somebody
Word.
and talk to them.
Yeah.
Yup.
So you've had erosions of the Fourth
Absolutely.
Amendment rights in
Right.
many cases.
Absolutely.
And so, but I think that we've got to get back to a point where you protect people's rights, but you also, there's legitimate law enforcement purposes where you need to go and say, okay, for other individuals' safety, I need to look at what this individual is doing. If somebody is plotting, and I think that I think that people who I see every day are certainly more afraid of what's going to happen in their neighborhood than they're afraid of what's going to happen.
It's got a white man.
Yeah, I mean, people are just. I'm just saying.
No, I rap with white. I'm not being. I'm not being
Right.
I'm telling you, in America,
just real.
cases
Right.
of mass terrorism
So
are more likely
real
committed by white middle-aged men.
Yeah.
Hold on. So, Mike, what you're saying, at some point, you feel that it does make perfect sense for them to trample on what I would see as civil liberties and
I wouldn't say trample. I mean, I think there's always been written into the Constitution
Right.
exceptions. So there's
Okay.
always been a point where you say, okay, you've got a right,
Right.
You've got articulated rights. But at some point, if I can go in front of a judge and I can say, I've got a probable cause to search your house,
Right.
I've got probable cause to search your car, and I can prove it, right? And we follow that law, right? I mean, that's how we go and find, in many instances, what the bad guys are up to,
Right.
So I think that there's constitutional rights that should continue to be protected, but there's also the opportunity to say, okay, if we're going to protect people in our society
Right.
and we're going to police our society, we've got to have the right to go and prove it. Now, I think there are a lot of things that have eroded at it, and Mike alluded to them. The Patriot Act in many instances
Absolutely.
have eroded at people's rights.
Yeah.
Now, even
Right.
when you go to someone's door, you used to would have to be the homeowner to allow policemen in.
Yeah.
Now, someone just has to say, "Come in." So your dumbass nephew
That's right.
can invite the police into your home versus having to come get you as a homeowner. And it wasn't a violation of that law, but I just saw.
And I've been on the other side of this. Like, I've been
No,
the
I'm
guy
here.
that's
I'm
been
here.
stopped.
Yeah,
and been like,
trust
I'm
me,
not
you
letting
black. I
search
know you
my car.
have.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
not
why you
letting
live in
search my
Atlanta and
car.
nowhere else. So you can drive a nice car and have a suit. What I mean, I saw two young men telling a black officer, "No, my mother's not here. You can't come in."
Wow.
Yeah.
He called the white officer. The white officer came and snatched one of them kids out.
Straight up.
And I just thought to myself, wow, this is terribly illegal. And the public. I saw members of the public saying, "Well, why didn't they just let him?" And I'm thinking to myself, you wouldn't let anybody in. When
don't
the census
understand.
knock on my door, you can't come in. How many
up.
people live here? 3. Me, her, and the dog. Back. So the fuck you need to know. You don't need to know how much money I make. You need
None
to
of
know
that.
how many people are in this house.
And that's it.
And I think we as black people too, we are too free to give up our freedoms for
think so,
safety.
too.
We
People who've
so
never-
free.
Absolutely.
But Mike, people who've never had a bad experience with, and look, I was law enforcement.
I don't know
I'm
any
just saying,
black person.
people-
My father was a police officer. Two of my
Right.
cousins are currently. Them niggas been stopped.
But I'm saying,
You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying when you talk about the other side, people who've never had that experience with, who've never had your hands quiver,
Will
when
never
they-
trade persons
they'll
with a
never
black
understand.
person.
They'll
So they
never
know
understand.
that's a lie. And I thought that until I've been talking to Jane Elliott lately. Jane Elliott's an 84-year-old white woman. Just look her up. You'll like her.
she's amazing.
I thought white people just ignorant. They don't know. They don't know. They can't know.
They can't.
They can't know what we're suffering. God bless them. And she stood in front of a room full of white people and said, "Who knows how black people are treated in here? Who would be willing to trade colors with a black person for a day?" How many hands you think went up?
No.
Huh? So that tells me That's like when you ask a man, how many men in here want children? How many men in here want children? I want children. Do you want children?
Yes.
Raise your hand. Did you want children?
I
Do you
do,
want?
yeah.
You want to have them?
Hold on, wait. So
Who want to have the children?
Yeah.
I trust the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
And the United States Constitution says you have to treat me as though you would treat these rich white landowners. And if you don't, you're breaking my constitutional right. So I don't care if I got 15 kilos on my coffee table. If you come in here illegally, my black ass is beating that case because it's illegal. So for me, that's when I have to get like a federal judge. Federal judges are empathetic to the people that get 30 years. They don't want to give it to them, but my hands are tied. So in matters of me and the United States Constitution, am I worried about a bomb blowing up at any given time? Yeah, just like any other American.
Yeah.
Do I want you to be able to check his phone or his phone or my phone? No, exactly. No, absolutely not. You have to figure out how to be a better policeman or a fucking anti-terrorism. But I am not going to give up my civil liberties to feel safe because that would just make me Russia.
But don't you think it's going to get worse though as technology continues to advance?
What's going to get worse?
Them trying to invade our privacy.
Yeah, what do you think that Apple phone debate was about?
That
thing wasn't a debate. They already knew they was going to bust that phone.
Of course
They knew they was going to bust that phone wide open. That was a test to see if the public was willing to say, I'll open the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on now.
That was it.
That's true.
You gotta,
It was a litmus test.
What's real is real.
It's so easy to do.
But I think part of it is I don't want to oversimplify, very complicated issues because what happens is, the government may be trying to get into one particular phone. And I think Apple pointed out, look, we can't build something for you to get into one particular phone. If we build this, you're going to subject everybody to security. And I think that's where there's got to be some reasonableness to it.
Snowden has already told us your phone files are here. See, it's not like we're talking hyper. We're not. Your phone is recorded right now. There is someone off base that can look through your files and figure out what your last 4 text messages to your old girlfriend was. You know what I mean? That's happening. That's why it's a white man in Russia. He don't want to be in Russia.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So my question becomes, as the United States citizens, now that you know all your ass and dick pics are out, what are you going to do to make sure that they can never legally come out? Because as a prosecutor, you know that. You know that there's some evidence you can't present because this dumbass cop.
Former prosecutor.
But you know this dumbass cop got this evidence in an illegal way. I can't use it.
That's the larger issue.
Yeah, so we got
the issue is we got to protect it.
To me, it's my constitutional right.
Because they already snooping.
I've accepted it. My phone is tapped. I talk shit on Hillary Clinton. I know my phone.
I truly believe that there's got to be a middle ground somewhere.
It's gotta be
There's no middle ground. See,
I don't think it's a middle ground.
but when you start saying there's a middle ground in the United States Constitution,
Not a middle ground. I'm saying a middle ground between protecting the Constitution and you feeling like your rights are invaded.
Part of the middle ground is we are a global police force and we have to decide what we're going to be. Wow. Because Iraq in 1965 did not look like Iraq now. It looked like a city, a burgeoning city that was going to go forth into a new century. Now it's a place of tribes and utter ghetto and vandalism, partially because we have served the interests of those that don't have that country's best interest. So we are planting the seeds to this. At some point in this country, we're going to have to start listening to better politicians or having a better foreign policy, or we're going to really have to build a wall around the whole thing. But there is no, when it comes to my constitutional rights, middle ground. Middle ground is the 13th Amendment.
Wow.
Slavery is illegal except for prison. And for the next 110 years, it becomes easier to lock up black men because slavery, we found a middle ground in that law, which slavery is still legal if we can get black prosecutors to prosecute black boys after we raise a mandatory minimum sentence on this. You get what I'm saying? The game is rigged. So I'm not saying that middle grounds isn't possible. I'm saying in matters of the Constitution, black people, especially black people, need to be diehard and vigilant about it because we've never enjoyed the full rights. Before they take them away, I'd like to shoot a gun. Have the ability to criticize government. That's all I'm saying. That's what scares me about middle ground with us because we've given middle ground so much.
And when I say middle ground, I mean there's a way to protect our constitutional rights.
Okay.
I believe that truly, and there's a way to make sure that we go after if I know imminently that there's going to be a bomb go off at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, and I have probable cause to investigate that, I can get in front of a judge and get them. There's got to be a way to protect people's privacy and go after legitimate criminal activity.
Absolutely.
I would like to see the middle ground to piggyback off what Mike's saying, I like to see that middle ground happen. It's about getting to that middle ground because while I value my intimacy and my privacy, I want to value that safety too and see it happen without, within reasonable limit and reasonable function. But it's like getting to that middle place where you're not tapping into my shit, looking at my shit, but you're protecting
a man with a Muslim name?
I haven't.
You haven't? You dated a Raheem or Akbar? You dated a Nasir? A girl with a Muslim name? Nobody. Shit.
Come on, girl.
There's a lot of women that have their ass locked up today for dating the brothers that I know.
I don't believe that the government will ever offer any protection of any of us without some sort of control.
Man, that hoe, yeah, I been playing. Told these niggas on it. Man, that real complete. I been working all winter, making sure that my